Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Stargirl Season 2, Episode 1. It's called Summer School, Chapter 1. And I'll warn you right now, every single episode, as far as I can see, is going to be called Summer School, Chapter, Episode number. So,
yeah.
look
I was
forward
going to
to
say
that.
Chapter X, but that might be interpreted as Chapter 10, and I don't want to give that impression.
Of course. And it even comes up in the title screen. It's the Stargirl logo, but they've slapped Summer School on the
Yes.
screen
Very
as well.
professionally, of course.
Actually, to be honest, I think it looks slightly oddly amateur the way it just kind of is tacked on. It just looks like someone's
That was my point.
I'm not sure. Like, I actually kind of like the idea of naming the seasons and like giving them each like a setting or a vibe or a. Because it's so obvious to do with like season 2s of shows that are set in school to just like, okay, we skipped the summer and now season 2 is the next year of school, and that's just kind of the format that most of the shows that do that take. But I kind of like the idea that saying no, this entire season is going to be set over the summer. It also means they can have like way more seasons if they're not tied to one season per one school year.
It does, and it's not even exclusive to school set shows. Most network TV, not all, but most,
That's true.
follows roughly the time period that it airs. You know, generally they'll take a break around Christmas, and it'll be Christmas in the show. They take summer off, and they'll come back in September, October, and oh look, the summer has passed.
I mean, if anything, this is actually. I mean, I know it's summer still now, but most of this is going to be airing like after August, so we're going to be in mostly autumn for this season.
Yeah.
So
For the vast majority.
So they're saying to hell with it. And to be honest, maybe it was meant to originally air in like May or June, to start. It probably got pushed back at some point because of things.
I do think that some of their other shows obviously got delayed. I think the original plan was probably to have this start in June and run, because typically CW shows end in May and June, and then they have their off season. I think this was originally scheduled for that period, but obviously over the past year and a half, everything got a bit just messed up in that regard.
Yeah, it's a slightly shorter season, 13 episodes versus I think it was like 16 the first one.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, not much of a difference, but just worth mentioning. And I believe it has been renewed for season 3.
That's good
already, so that's neat to know. But I think what I like about it just having like a title and it being like, okay, this is the. It gave it like a vibe right away. We're like, okay, I get it. This feels like a story that's going to take place over 13 episodes now, as opposed to just, oh, we have to have another year of story. So even if it makes no difference in reality, it just feels like it's got more of a plan just because they've given it a title. Because they're saying this is the statement of this season. This is the point.
Where you come from,
yeah. So obviously it sets up why summer school is going to be a thing over the course of the episode. I thought this was a fairly entertaining catch up with the characters. I wouldn't say this episode has a ton of advancement in plot on its own. It's mostly just catching up,
reminding you where we left things.
Yes, with all the main characters, including the villains, and setting up some new plot threads. But there's not like a ton of advancement of each one on its own. And I think that's okay for an episode 1, honestly. It's maybe less flashy, it's maybe less exciting to talk about in terms of like, oh, this huge thing happened or whatever. But first thing we see is
I'm going to give this show the best credit I've given it yet.
What's that?
Opening scene of this season, I thought I was watching Doom Patrol. Like, it felt like I was watching an episode of Doom Patrol for this opening, like 3 or 4 minutes, whatever it is.
I wasn't going to say that specifically. What I was going to say, though, which is kind of along the similar line, is this opening scene I thought successfully felt like it was part of like a horror movie or something akin to that. It felt like it didn't just feel like a scene from Stargirl. It felt like it was going for creepy kids doing creepy horror movie shit, and it felt like that. It felt this is the thing. Not even necessarily from a good movie. Like, I could totally see this scene playing out in a shitty horror movie. I watch a lot of shitty horror movies where they do creepy kid stuff. But it did feel like it was of that genre. So that is a credit, I suppose, to just the direction and the overall tone of that opening scene.
It nailed what it was going for. And I was like legitimately wondering for like a minute. I was like, did they put like a preview for the new Doom Patrol season in here or something? Because I haven't watched the teaser trailer for that. So I'm like, is that what they open with?
Yeah, so we have this little girl who wants to go to this party. There's like a birthday party across the street, and her mum's like, nah. and she sitting out on the porch, and this little kid shows up, this little boy who starts saying,
Bruce.
why don't you go to the party? And is this the devil on the shoulder, right? It's just very clear this is not a real kid.
Yeah, and if you're not sure at first he seemingly gets like run over and then just pops up again.
Yeah, they do the Pet Cemetery like shock, big loud vehicle, drives down the road, and I mean, it's kind of obvious he disappeared because there's no like, it doesn't feel like there's been an impact. It just kind of feels like
No, it doesn't, and the girl doesn't even think that. She looks down like, where did he go? Never mind.
Yeah, and he convinces her to steal a present because for some reason all the presents are sitting outside on the table on the porch when everyone's inside, which feels like a really dodgy security system.
I just trust this neighborhood. Clearly, this is like the 50s or whatever it is. It's a trustworthy time.
It's a trusting time, yes. And she opens this box, and it's a doll, but at first she sees like a creepier version.
Yeah.
And then there's like a scream, and the mom comes out looking, and eventually, and she doesn't hear the scream at first. She just kind of is like, "Where's that daughter?" Oh, she went across the street, that little bitch. And she comes storming across, and she's ready to get mad. And then she sees presumably her daughter's body or something. I don't
even know if there's a body there, because you have a moment from the devil kid Bruce, who's like, "Oh, you shouldn't have stole that," and his face turns like starts going blue with red eyes. And then that's when she screams. And when the mum runs out, you can see just a black smoke. Right? I'm like, is she just a pile of ashes down there? Like, how bad is it?
She definitely sees something because she reacts to whatever she's looking at.
Yeah.
Which is behind the bushes, so we don't get to see it. But it's effective. Obviously, the big thing is that it reveals the name on the mailbox at the end of the scene. This girl and her mum are McNiders.
Yes.
Which is an important name. And then JSA lore, so obviously that's setting up, at least when we get more into this Eclipso stuff, because I mean, I think it's very clear in this opening season, because we know it was teased at the end of the last season, but also once the voice comes in and the eyes, it was like, okay, this feels Eclipso-esque now, like, it was starting to feel that way. It was like, okay, so we're going to have like a connection to something bad that happened to some of the JSA members in the past, and we can sort of use that as an emotional pull, which that's just cool. It's just a fine way to connect it. But we cut to present day, and Courtney's being overzealous about patrolling the small town that she's living in by making them all dress up in costume and patrol every night. I actually like got a good little laugh out of the moment once they all show up and they're kind of complaining, saying they don't have to do this anymore. All the villains have been defeated. What's the point of doing this? And so, okay, I get it, right? We're doing this too much. How about we patrol 6 nights a week? That actually made me laugh.
Yeah.
That actually made me laugh.
She's very good. I forgot how good she was at just the overly enthusiastic stuff for it.
Yeah.
I just like, she's so into it, but like really, really earnestly, and not like in a fake way or anything.
I think, and maybe this is also partly to blame for why the episode doesn't have as much advancement necessarily, which again, I don't think is a bad thing. I want to make that clear. But because one of the things I want to compliment it is that it does give all of the characters, all of our main teens have a plot thread on their own, and they all have something they're dealing with. And I think if one of the complaints we maybe had last season is that when they introduced and started bringing in these other GSA teenagers, that some of them, felt a bit rushed, some of their plots didn't feel as deep, or they felt a little bit, hit and miss with their developments. And I'm not going to say that all of their plots this episode are all great on their own.
They most certainly are not.
But I can't argue that from a format perspective, they're trying to give them all their own thing so that they all feel fleshed out equally, so that they all have their own stuff. I
appreciate that in the first episode. I hope that's not the plan every episode.
Oh no,
that would be grindingly slow.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll take focus to like maybe 1 or 2 per episode, and they'll also maybe have a small tease of what's going on still to remind you, but sort of shift it at the background. I think one of them's a bit weak. We're probably going to agree on that one. I think maybe perhaps the one that's a little more interesting, because I think it's an improvement, is Rick. Are you?
I think he's definitely more interesting than anything he had last season. I'm not in love with it yet, but again, I think that maybe is because I don't have enough. I don't think it's the most interesting of the 3 either, but most improved. I think I'll give you.
Yeah, that's fair. Not the most interesting, but I think because he had that turn, right, where he kind of showed sympathy for Grundy, right? Because all season he was like, I want to kill who killed my parents. I want to get Grundy, and it was very one note. Obviously, immediately he was improved by him having that kind of epiphany and having that moral kind of realization. So seeing him in this episode just leave food out in the forest because he thinks Grundy's there, he sees the footprint, so he has evidence to suggest that he is there. So
he's got a pet Grundy coming along.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was one of the more interesting things that they could have done with him, is maybe have him continually build this relationship to the point where Grundy might even show up and help them at some point.
I think it's very possible, yeah.
The scene with the teacher who accuses him of cheating on the test, and I guess I kind of like that it doesn't actually let us know if he did cheat or not. Like, he might have actually just really done well and got everything right. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was my thought, is that he actually did. Like, he's turned it all around since last season.
Because he felt genuinely offended at this accusation.
Maybe he's just a really good actor, like the character,
yeah,
not the actor.
That's entirely possible. I will say, because I liked when he sort of like breaks down a little bit and just says, "I saved you. I saved this whole town. Like, I'm being treated like this. Like, no one knows, and I'm being treated like I'm a scumbag." I think that is hurt a little bit if he did actually cheat. Whereas if he actually did pass the test with flying colors legitimately, I think that lands better, that he's offended to that extent.
Yeah, I agree. That moment actually surprised me a little bit, because when he did that, I thought it was going to be like one of those moments where he doesn't actually say that. He wished he did.
Mm.
And then, the teacher responds and it carries on. I was like, oh, I guess he did just say that he just saved her and everyone else. Weird.
Yeah. And she reacts appropriately. She sort of goes, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Weird, right?
But
it's not a complaint because like I say, she does react appropriately.
Yeah,
otherwise that would be a complaint.
And it's a small enough moment that I get that she'll just sort of shrug it off and be like, "Well, that was weird, whatever," and just go back to being teacher. Fine.
Yeah.
But it also maybe sets up the idea that he's failed, so he's probably going to end up in summer school with Courtney, so she's not going to be alone. So, I mean, that sets that up nicely, if she is going to fail him, even though he passed with flying colours. So, that was his stuff. I thought that was fine. Like I say, definitely an improvement over his stuff last season. We'll get the negative one out of the way, because I feel like the negative one we're going to talk about is Beth. Which, again, on principle, I like that they're giving her something. But there's definitely some weird elements to this. If you're a couple with a teenager, are you going to leave your divorce papers just lying around, like on a table?
Do you know what? That's not the weirdest element to me. I'm like, who cares? She's a teenager. She'll be fine.
Yeah, but you'd want to tell them. You'd want to actually tell them in a conversation and say, like, "Honey, this is happening."
Probably.
Like, that'd be the way to do it. But when she just finds them, like, because she sort of knocks some papers off the table and she picks them up and it's like, divorce paper. I was like, what?
Yes, and then the rest of her plot is Parent Trap.
Parent Trap. Although I was very much relieved because she sets up this romantic dinner for her parents to try and like basically fix their marriage. I was very relieved that she just got a phone call saying, "Oh, I won't be home for dinner," because I was really worried we were going to have a scene where they both come home and awkwardly I have to like sit there for this romantic and see her like try and like talk them up into like being in a romantic mood. Like, I was really worried about having that scene, so I was so relieved when it was just, "Oh yeah, we're not coming home for dinner, sorry." I was like, "Oh yes."
Like I said, this idea has been done before. I never find it believable. Maybe when they were younger, but like she's, late teens, right? At this point, that they're meant to be. The idea of them being that upset that their parents are going to get divorced, they're like, no, this, all day she's just moping around. Like, there's no one's like that.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of fit her character based on. I mean, arguably, you could just say that this is because she's always been a little bit unrealistic, but it does kind of fit her character in the sense that she always was really into her parents and didn't really have friends, and this maybe more of a blow.
And that was a big part of my problem with her character in the first season, why she was far and away my least favorite.
Yeah,
in that, and that I just didn't buy her being a real person like I do all the others.
Yeah. I can't argue really. All I can hope is that as the growth comes, much like with Rick, maybe it'll turn a corner and she'll start to grow into whatever her phase 2 is, whatever that may be.
Yes. Well, obviously, her whole thing, she's trying to get Chuck back in the goggles.
Yes, who does actually, like, the voice comes on at one point and she tries to talk to him and he's like, "I don't know you, shut him down."
Who the shit are you? Go away.
It sounds like she's maybe done like a factory reset, and
Yeah, it sounds like he's forgotten everything.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna have to make him remember me. I'm like, I'm not sure that's how computers work.
uh, yeah. Yolanda's actually her plot. I thought makes a lot of sense. I think we even said when she killed Brainwave that
This has to stick with her.
yeah, this has to be something that she struggles with, and sure enough, immediately that's her thing. She's basically like almost hearing him as if he's talking to her in her head, because he could do that, of course, but obviously it's just like her imagining it. She's feeling guilt. And I do like that she also brings it up to Courtney. I mean, obviously she has the big dramatic scene where she goes to the confessional, and we know that her relationship with religion's a little bit weird because of her and her parents and her backstory with them. So there's a nice complexity there that makes it a little bit weird. And
The only part I didn't like about this scene, because I think this is a really strong scene, her just kind of like breaking down the confessional, the idea that oh no, she does this on a regular basis now.
Yeah,
she's like, do you want to talk today?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm just gonna see her again.
Yeah, she never actually says anything, and maybe that'll be a big scene for her. Maybe in a few episodes, she'll actually speak.
Be able to, yeah. It was just when she comes out, she has like the moment kind of flashes in her head of what happened again. I didn't really enjoy the way that was kind of presented and shot. It was kind of like in this weird, like it was like there was a physical reaction, like she was physically being attacked like by Brainwave, and maybe that's the point. But it felt as a viewer like there was something happening that we should be more aware of. And then the rest of the episode kind of just like, no, it's it's in her head, right? It's this lingering effect. And I don't think I really like the way it was filmed either way, whichever way it turns out, because if it is just in her head, I think it should have played it more, not subtly than that, but just in a more natural way.
I think the reason why it played that way is because the moment right after she looks at the confessional, she's waiting for the priest to come out, and it's sort of playing it like she's actually like scared that Brainwave's in there, that he's the one who's in the other booth, and that this is something that's been done to her. And then he walks out and it's just him, and she's like she's sort of relieved. So I think she believes that he might be there doing this to her, and she's paranoid about that. So that's why
I just think it goes a little over the top with the way it's presented to us. I think there are better ways of showing that.
Yeah, I would chalk it up to just her being paranoid. But I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, if ultimately it's just a small, choice, a creative choice you're not a fan of.
Yeah. Overall, I really like this plot and what it's doing with her. This is a very small nitpick that I can, I'm over it. I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, well, I think with her and Rick, they've both got interesting like drives going forward, where she's dealing with the guilt of what she did, which is, and I think we even mentioned this at the finale last time, but the idea that she's the one who actually killed someone, so she's dealing with the guilt of that, and Rick had the opposite thing where he was the one who chose not to, and now he's dealing with kind of his empathy and sort of developing that.
And like with Yolanda, where she's talking to Courtney about this, like saying, and she's like, did I do the right thing? And he just doesn't really answer. It's like, well, I wasn't there. I don't really know. Which is kind of the point. Like, it's ultimately it's going to be down to her to come to terms with it.
Yeah, and that's the point. Is none of our characters were there to see it, and I think Courtney's answer, as well as she is kind of being nervous and non-committal because she doesn't want to say the wrong thing, I think her point is very accurate. Is like, I wasn't there. I didn't see the context of which you chose to do this. I didn't see, was he like making a move? She didn't see that if he was. She didn't see if Yolanda was in danger or if Brady
was it cold-blooded.
Yeah, she didn't see it. She didn't know. So I think Yolanda coming to terms with that, and maybe even if she does come to the realization that it was out of anger and maybe she didn't have to do it, that acceptance and then choosing to be better because of, like, she's accepted that she made a mistake and that she went too far is also a good character beat potentially.
Yeah, pretty much any way this resolves can lead to good potential and good character drama.
Yeah. Courtney, of course, is looking through the GSA files. We get a couple of villain name drops. Black
Not studying for a history exam.
No. Actually, one of my favorite lines in the whole episode, which it's just a small thing, but when after the parents are called in to talk to the principal, and she's sitting there, and the principal says, "This is not just about the fight," because she has like a moment with Artemis where she thinks Artemis is attacking her with a hockey stick, and she's not really, but Courtney, because they
paranoid,
like defense mode. He says, "Oh, you failed history." It's like, well, that's not possible. I studied. for what felt like a very long time. And I was almost expecting like a mini flashback showing like the clock when she started studying, and then when she fell asleep, and it was like 20 minutes or something like that.
I really wanted just like a look from Pat, being like, "Really, you're gonna give me that after last night?"
Yes, when I caught you looking at files at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So, honestly, like, what's the Breck Messenger? Remember her name? Her delivery and like trying to like not sleaze her way out. That's like obviously not quite the right word. It's more
Charm.
it's more charming and adorable. But like the way she kind of tries to get out of things, and I like that she kind of gets it a little bit from Pat, because Pat kind of does something in this scene where he calls it a cat fight, and then like the principal's like, dude, wait. And then obviously Barb is like, no,
Really?
and he's like, yeah, which is wrong, obviously. And he just kind of tries to, I'm like, you're just as bad as she is. Like, you're the adult, and you make more good points because you're older. But
It's why the two of them have had such good pairing. Though.
Yeah. So he basically denies her Stargirl for a couple of weeks. It'd be good for her to like be not allowed to do that. She's clinging to it too much, and this does ruin the plans because they wanted to go to a lake house. Well, I say they, particularly Pat and Barb wanted to go to a lake house with the kids
the dog.
and the dog. Yes, it was 3-2 in the vote. Yes, this is right. And now they can't go because now they have to stick around because she has to go to summer school. So they're pissed about that. But hey, it is what it is, and that sets us up for the future. But her being kind of paranoid, and her obviously that leads to the end of the episode, or almost the end, where the staff lights up and she goes downstairs and finds a woman. And we saw the lantern lighting up earlier in the episode, and we see presumably Jade.
Yeah, and I think you're expecting that there's probably going to be a scene next episode. What happened to No Stargirl? It's like, there was an invader in the house.
Do you know what? I was on her side. I was on Courtney's side for a moment here, because even though it was funny when they're both fighting and she like smashes like a couple of bookcases in a window, she's like, oh, it's like she knows she's going to get in trouble for that. But at the end of the fight, when she's like down and like Green Lantern Jr.'s kind of like holding the lantern, and she's like, I'm Green Lantern's daughter. And then the family runs down, like, what's going on? And Courtney's like, okay, maybe she's not a villain. So she says, oh, I think there's been a misunderstanding. And Pat says, you're having a lot of those today. And I'm like, no, she still broke in the house. It doesn't matter how good she is. There was an invader in the house. She was well within her rights to fight back, damn it.
Right. This is not a point of, yes, she is probably a good person. Yes, this belongs to her by right of being Green Lantern's daughter. Doesn't mean you get to break in the middle of the night and steal it.
She's still a home intruder. Like, I mean, maybe she could have approached it with a bit of more of a calm attitude to avoid as much of a fight. Perhaps I'd have to go back and look at the initial moment, but
there was an intruder.
There was an intruder. I don't think she's completely in the wrong here. So we'll see how they play with that next episode. But
again, a nice fight scene. Not like as super inventive as we got last time, but I liked the point where I did the shot where the camera just sat in the hallway and we saw, we could just see the doorway, and through there and into the kitchen. They were just kind of like taking it in turns, being thrown into our view.
It was also a nice touch that this was pretty in the dark, so you had the light of the staff and the green light effectively lighting the scene a lot of the time, which was a nice visual touch. So that was neat. So that's obviously setting up stuff. We got a new member potentially, probably a reluctant one at first, I imagine, but we got Jade. I mean,
we are assuming Jade.
I mean, who else would it be? Is there someone else it could be?
Not that I'm aware of. Not unless they want to go off script and make up their own thing, which by all means they could do.
It should probably just be called Jade. I don't.
I'll be shocked if it's not.
So yeah, that stuff's neat. There's some other things with Courtney just that's kind of separate. Cameron's kicking around. They establish him, and my favorite two characters, which is Icicle's parents.
Yes, yeah, that damn girl.
We should tell him the truth about that awful little wench. I can't remember the word they used, but it was something like that. And
they're amazing,
staring creepily with their like cardigans on. It's just such a good visual. And I think it's the fiddler's kid who's like really moody with the long hair. She bumps into him earlier on. I'm kind of pointing these out because the episode does make a point of introducing all these characters that are going to like be seen at the end of the photographs.
Yeah.
and then of course, obviously Mike we saw just in the house. That's per normal. So we end the episode with
got a name drop for Jakeem as well, though.
Oh, that's right. Of course, yes.
Which is Mike's friend who was going to cover his paper round.
What a neat little seed of that was.
That was clever.
There's a Jakeem in town hanging around. So maybe Mike won't be the one who picks up that pen.
No.
Just
just what we wanted.
Nah, it's good stuff. So Cindy, we've not seen all episode, but obviously we knew
wait. Because this is the final scene. We've got another plot thread we want to talk about first.
Joe McHale
stuff.
Pat. Oh, of course, yes. His new best friend, Zeke, the nosy mechanic, who was going to come in originally to run the place while he's away on vacation, but obviously doesn't need to anymore because Courtney has to keep them all there. But when he comes in, of course, he's been in the forbidden door,
which he'd left unlocked.
Maybe. I don't know. I got the impression that maybe he hadn't left it unlocked. It's just he's a mechanic.
There wasn't a lock on the door. Like, there wasn't anything. It was just a regular door, just with a sign on.
Fair enough. But anyway, he comes in. I kind of like, sometimes a man just needs a robot. You don't have to tell me what it's for. It's, you know. I
get it. I once built a flamethrower. It's nothing. It's some fuel and BB guns or whatever it was. He goes, yeah, could fit one of them right in the palm of that hand.
Yeah, I love the idea that he's going to help just adding to this robot and just adding an arsenal to it just because he thinks it's cool, and that's the whole thing.
I just love that he's kind of barged himself into being part of Pat's business. I like the in that first scene with him, Pat was like, yeah, we'll come back and you can go on your way. He goes, yep, sure thing, partner. And Pat's like, what do you mean, partner? And here he is like, right, I don't need your money. You can go. He goes, I'll just go get my tools. I'll be right back. Let's work on some robots together. Nothing I want more in the world.
Yeah, it was all very amusing. Like all the scenes with him were pretty amusing. So that's cool. And then of course the Joe McHale, the Starman stuff, where it's basically just he's looking for Pat. Basically, that's all it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to a diner. He's like, "Hey, where's your ex-husband?" That's.
He felt a little bit sinister in this scene, though.
Maybe a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe I was just projecting, but I don't know, I was getting sinister vibes from the way it was filmed.
Oh, maybe it'll turn out he's a shapeshifter or something. He's not really Starman. Maybe he's still really dead, and this is some nefarious shapeshifter trying to pretend to be him to.
Could be. Who knows?
Something shady, whatever it may be. But anyway, Cindy at the end. So Cindy comes in, and obviously we knew about the secret entrance into the tunnels and the schools, so that's all been set up.
This is one of the most TV moments of the episode where it's playing the song, walking down the corridor of the school. I felt very TV, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, I think I like that this base is still. I love that the painting of the Injustice gang are still up in the wall.
Yeah.
And she basically opens a little file, and there's a photo of Henry, and she rips that up because he's dead. It's like, well, he's a goner. And we get a photo of Cameron, the Fiddler's kid, and who was the first one? Armis. That was the one.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so this is who she's going to recruit. But there's a fourth photo, and she puts it down, and would you believe it? It's little Mike. She's going to try and recruit Mike as a villain. And it's like, okay, this is the next generation of the Injustice Society. That's it's neat.
It's fun, yeah.
We obviously knew that's where it was going. She pulls out the Eclipso diamond and it says, yeah, we're ready. And that tells you right now that she's not going to convert all these people to being evil and being on our side. Eclipso is going to manipulate them, and that's how we're going to do this. So it means that, Mike might end up killing a bunch of people, but we don't have to blame him. He's still Mike when he comes back. Yeah. So, that'll work nicely. And this is kind of, there's so many things set up in this episode, which is why I think as an episode, it's an episode one through and through, and that it's doing all the setup stuff, and it makes it less fulfilling on its own as an episode because it's not giving you the big payoff to something, which this show last season was very good at doing on a regular basis.
It was, yes. I mean, very specifically episode one of a new season, not of a new show.
Yeah, that's very different.
Those are two very different things.
Well, there's a reason why if you go back to season one, episode one, you'll notice that they don't introduce a lot of the side characters yet. They kind of save them for the most part.
It's pretty much all Courtney and Pat, and that's it.
And that's because you can build up to that big fight with Courtney, and in
Yeah.
Brainwave, and you get that payoff. You know.
Whereas in season 2, you come in, it's been probably a year since we had an episode of this now.
Yeah, I thought we were saying show. I think in show it's been a month. But yeah.
I mean, real time. For a significant portion of the audience, myself included, and probably you, I have not watched anything from this show since that last episode aired.
No.
So, and I don't think there was even like a previously on recap or anything at the start of this. So it's like, no, you're dedicating this episode to, let's remind everyone, ease back in, remind you who these characters are, what they were doing, what their goals are roughly for this season, just to give, okay, so you know where you stand, and then the season will properly begin next episode.
I also like that it didn't wipe the slate clean. It felt like most of the characters, all of what they're doing and what they're going through is influenced directly by what they went through by the end of last season. And that feels quite nice. Obviously, eventually some people have to move on to new things, and Courtney arguably might be the one who's moved on the most, in the sense that well, I mean, not moved on is not the right term, but her obsession of being Stargirl getting in the way. Well, that was kind of there as an underlying layer last season. It coming to the forefront feels like a new plot to play with.
Last season was still mostly about her father and destiny, and this is what she's meant to do. Whereas now it's more about the work-life balance.
Yeah, it's about also being Courtney and actually graduating high school and having a life outside
passing
of being
English and history.
Yeah, primarily, yes. So, yeah, I had a good time with the episode. This one doesn't necessarily there's some good things to really like in this. There's a lot of potentially great directions that it's taking. The characters still feel like the characters, which is good. We don't know as of yet after one episode if the pacing of the episodes like last season and the payoffs that we were constantly feeling we were getting every couple of episodes is going to still feel like it's there, but there's no reason to think that it wouldn't be yet. So
we'll know for sure in probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. But again, I think the fact that they've made a point of giving this season a theme and a name and saying, hey, this is what the focus is going to be, it does kind of feel like, no, this is probably going to have a nicely contained story. Much like season 1 had a lot of good threads that wrapped up by the finale, and it felt like a payoff. Courtney referring to Pat as her dad, or herself as his daughter, in the finale was such a big moment that really paid off that season, that I'm feeling pretty confident about this season. As for now, it still feels like it's separate from that, every season 22 episode churn that basically just helped kill a lot of the other shows on that network.
Right, and like I say, this season it's already setting up goals. Last season it was very clear it was going to be about her, accepting Pat as a father. I'm sure a big point towards the end of this season will be her choosing not to do something Stargirly, and letting teammates and other characters do the superhero stuff in her stead, and she can go and do a family moment instead.
Yeah. What are the chances we end this season with them going on a trip to the lake house just before summer ends? They'll have time for a little trip.
That's possible, yeah. Very possible.
I feel like that could be the ending. That said, though, Pat did point out that he had to he had to save up to afford this lake house for the trip, so maybe he won't get his money back, and maybe they can't. But I'm sure they'll
find a way.
Yeah. Actually, come to think of it, more time has passed than a month because it was Christmas at the end of last season.
You're right, it was, wasn't it?
So it's actually been a few months.
Yeah.
This will be May-ish, end of May, start of June. No, end of June. Well, it depends when the school season ends.
I don't know when American schools end. I barely know when your schools end up breaking for summer different to mine. So I don't know what American schools do.
Yeah, it was always towards the end of June for me.
Middle of July for me. It was the week of my birthday without fail.
Yeah. School in July sounds weird. School in July.
Just normal. That is completely normal to me.
Well, that's fine. Well, I'm sure me coming back to school mid-August sounds weird to you.
Yeah, that's alien.
But that's just when it happened. So
it's just wrong. September.
No, honestly, it kind of tracks, actually, because I feel like summer here always peaks in temperature in the first half of summer. It's always just kind of middling in the back half.
What's funny is, I was thinking that the other day, because obviously there's all the horrific global warming going on, and the report came out this week. And not to derail this too much, but the reason that this came to my head is I always think of July, June, July. That's the summer months. That's where it's hot, and in this country anyway. That's when it's consistently hot, and you get like 2-3 weeks of heat.
Yeah.
Almost every single time we have had a record day of heat in this country, it's been in August. Without fail, it's always August that's the hottest day.
It's never consistently as hot in August, though.
But it's not as consistent, yeah. You just have like the odd day here or there.
If anything, I would say most years I feel like May has bigger warm spells than August does.
Yeah, you get that. You'll get an April, May, like, oh, that's summer for the year.
Not that August is cold by any means, but it always just kind of feels like the leftover heat before things start cooling down for September. But whatever.
It definitely has this year, anyway.
So yeah, that's Stargirl episode 1, season 2. Now, obviously, this is actually quite late in the week. I didn't mention this at the start, but we're not recording this until Sunday, and the episode aired on Tuesday. Obviously, that's not ideal, and hopefully will be earlier most weeks, but we tend to have to shift around depending on what Connor's work schedule's like. So they'll be coming. The reviews will be coming. Just what part of the week is up for debate. So look forward to the future reviews. Like I said, Doom Patrol's coming back next month, so if you're interested in that as well. Obviously, Doom Patrol and Stargirl, very different shows, but they may appeal to a lot of overlap given they're both DC shows. And
we love both, so
yeah, must be others out there. So let us know what you thought episode 1 of season 2 of Stargirl in the comments. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all those things that YouTube people tell you, because it helps YouTube channels out a lot. You can also support us over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. For as little as $1 per month, help keep all the content coming, get some bonuses for your trouble, and of course you can find us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And also check out Mailed Fuzz Movies, which is where all the movie podcasts live and movie reviews now, so go and have a look at that too. But otherwise, that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Stargirl. I will say TV, I don't want to say Stargirl this time. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?